seniors, specifically your three captains. How has it been watching that relationship with them three grow into what it's become today?
Um, in many ways, it's what the college experience is supposed to be with those kids, minus some of the off the course stuff that they've had to deal with. I was actually part of the staffs that recruited both Thomas and Lindy. We recruited both of those guys when we were at Stephen F. So I've known them even longer than just our time here. But just to have an opportunity to have been around them, watching them kind of become adults, mature people who can make sound decisions and not rash ones, has been a enjoyable process for me. They've helped make me a better coach, a better father, and I hope that I've had a similar impact on their lives as they move forward. Senior Day is always enjoyable but emotional at the same time. But I hope that when they look back, they think of it as a very positive experience.
And talking to Trey, he talked about how grateful he was for you to allow him to be that voice that he's been. What has it been like seeing him, come out of his shell to be what he's been for you guys?
Oh man, Trey's one of the more unique people I've ever been around. He's certainly not in the top probably 500 of most talented athletically, right? But I'm not sure that I've been around five smarter people in my life ever. I mean, God knows a little bit about everything, and to see him embrace whatever his role has been from the beginning to the end, and now we've asked him to be more vocal. Obviously, he doesn't play still, but he knows exactly what's going on and what everybody's supposed to be doing all the time. And again, it's a great thing to watch because it's helped me learn that leadership doesn't have an age or a talent level, but it's got a great heart, it's got a great mind, it's got great work ethic, and Trey's a great example of that.
What do you remember about that Arkansas game? You guys were down a lot of people. I think he got first half minutes. He scored. What do you remember about that game?
I remember losing.
By a point, I think. Even with all those guys.
Man, it's amazing how as coaches we can always remember everything about it. We shot 3 layups at the end of that game, down one, and I can still see the play in the back of my mind. Jeff shot one, and then Mitch and Cam both got their hands on the rebound. But we went into that game with I think Tavar Sean was injured and Kendall Smith had come down with the flu or something maybe. And we were down bodies already and really didn't need any more issues going on the road in a place where it's really hard to win. I just remember thinking that, if we could convince our guys that we don't need 12, right? You only play 5 at a time, that as long as they had each other's backs, we'd have success. And I never thought that I would actually put Trey in the game, right? But as a coach, sometimes you just go with your instincts. So lo and behold, I think it's it may have been at the second, maybe it was the first meeting. It might have been the second segment of 4 minutes there. We had some guys out there that needed a blow, and we had like a 5-point lead, maybe. And it was close enough to a media where I thought, you know what, we could steal a minute here. And we didn't have a stoppage of play for a while. Once he got in, I was kind of frustrated. But he scores, and I'm like, hell yeah. I mean, that's awesome, Just there's a lot of connective tissue between the University of Arkansas basketball program and ours, most notably Coach Sutton. And I know he's pretty close to the Arkansas border. That school's been a meaningful part of his life as well. But to see him in that moment in a game that really mattered, right, that we were really trying to win, it may have been the game that determined our fate there. You kind of probably look at 3 or 4 games during that year. If we had won them, maybe put us over the top for the NCAA tournament. But I was just so excited for him because I know what work he puts in. And, again, work is always rewarded. This game has a funny way of doing that. And that's just another example. But the lasting impression of me is walking off having to shake Coach Henderson's hand after losing.
Did that make last year, I guess, any more difficult for you watching Trey? Is that whenever you guys, lost those 3 guys, you also lost Trey to an injury. He didn't get the chance to play.
Yeah, he hasn't quite recovered from that injury either. um, you know, he was blessed with a lot of ability. Athleticism wasn't one of them. So we take what we get from him, which is a lot. Yeah, so I was I was hopeful he would maybe on the court have a little bit more of an impact, but I'm not one bit regretful of what I've been fortunate enough to have been around him. And we talk all the time. He's, I think now, I don't even know if this has been announced, he's one of the top 16 seniors on this campus, recognized by our university. And he's doing all that, and he's not asking to miss practice or not do whatever we're doing here. So, those type of things I would think about all the time as we move forward.
Spent 3 years with these seniors, and you said you had recruited Lindy and Thomas at Stephen F. With the amount of time that you spent with these guys, how meaningful is this senior day going to be for you?
Maybe the most meaningful one that I've been a part of so far. I hope there are many more, but these guys had an opportunity when Brad left to say, you know what, no thanks, man. I've been through enough here. I want to kind of move on and start something new. I'm not really sure you can coach anyway. So, but they believed in me and believed in this program, and they believed in each other. And they've given me a chance here in these first 3 years as a head coach to figure it out a little bit, kind of start to establish an identity. They haven't bucked what we've tried to do as a staff. They've never shown a bad attitude. Haven't always played great, but it's part of the deal. So whenever this program is rolling in a few years and we're having success, the kids on that team won't be more important than those three guys who we're going to lose this year in terms of the process of getting to that point. So I always think very, very highly of those kids.
How is it that you didn't recruit Cam at SFA?
Cam was recruited at a pretty consistently higher level.
Okay.
Just think people that physically, he's always been pretty physically mature. Right. The other two were pretty scrawny in high school. And we just thought, what, maybe somebody overlooked these guys. They could both really shoot. But other than that, it wasn't a whole lot we weren't sure what their bodies would turn out to be. So it was probably pretty good judgment on our part that, you wouldn't waste a whole lot of time. I think Cam's recruitment was all Power 5. I know Lindy had some Harvard in there, had some Tulsa, it was kind of schools that there was a balance, because there also was Big 12, ACC, but there was a mixture, and Thomas's recruitment was kind of a mixture too. South Florida, Gulf Coast, so it was, we knew we couldn't get Cam.
Okay.
That's probably the easiest way to say
On Cam, how has he embraced the change through the years as his role as a player too? He's gone from being a power guy off the bench to power guy to three-point shooter at times to now power guy again.
That's probably a better question for him. What I've seen is just a kid who's just worked at whatever he's been asked to do. During their freshman year, while I was an assistant, I spent a lot of time with those guys, trying to help them develop as players and talking to them about how they can become impactful guys on the court. But I've watched that work ethic continue, even though I haven't been as much of a day-to-day part of that. Cam's no different. I walk in here every day, somewhere in the 6 o'clock hour. Cam McGriff's in this gym. Pretty consistent. I'm really not sure how many days I walked in he wasn't in here. And work wins ultimately. His success on the court is a byproduct of that.
What do you think has been about this group of seniors that's kept them so steady through all the ups and downs that they've faced?
I don't know. I guess some ways I'm kind of playing psychologist here a little bit. I think they've helped each other.
Mm-hmm.
If I were guessing, that they came in together and wanted to kind of stick this thing out no matter what. And now they appreciate each other. I would guess that they'll continue to be pretty close once they leave here. But I also would imagine that goes back to the foundation that was laid at home. They all three of them, a great set of parents. Right? Both parents are in their lives for the whole group, and I'm sure that they've been taught, you just fight through and figure things out. So I'd start there, give them credit to their parents, but I think in this moment, all these moments that they've been here, they've leaned on each other a lot.
What kind of examples that set to the younger guys, even recruits that, like, despite life being like rough up and down all the time, but they stick through and they're loyal to the program?
Yeah, it's easier for kids to not stick with things now. We've made it easier for them, and so therefore, when they make decisions that aren't necessarily thoughtful, maybe sometimes is the right word. We tend to think that they're just soft or don't want it. Well, we've created a system that encourages that behavior. What these kids are saying is those kind of old school values where you stick through it through tough times still works, right? And maybe you don't hang a banner in your time, but the experiences you have here will give you a chance to kind of draw back at some point, right? These guys are all going to be husbands and fathers and work somewhere, and they're going to deal with adversity somehow, and maybe some of the experiences that they went through here will help them. But for our young guys, those kids will be somebody that they can look back and say, you know what, when we were going through this 8-game losing streak as our freshman year went through, here's what the seniors did to help us. And now maybe it's not an 8-game losing streak, maybe it's a couple bad practices, or maybe they failed an exam, or maybe I got them running the bleachers for 2.5 hours of practice, that it's not the end of the world, that you can get through it and figure out a way to have better moments moving forward.
Going back to Trey, you guys know all the reasons why you love him, but sometimes fan bases don't see that. But this fan base loves him as much as you guys do. How big is that for him to get the recognition and gratitude that he deserves in this arena?
Yeah, I wish we could have a day to recognize every player individually and just kind of go through their whole experience, because I think people would have an appreciation for why it's so important that we take care of these guys. But our fan base is different. It's like I talked about in one of the post-game press conferences. They know what's going on. They're very knowledgeable people about how this process works, that these kids aren't always great on the court necessarily. They don't always play well, but they value hard work. They value guys who stick to things when they're tough. They stick with us when things are tough. And he's one of us. He's ours, and it doesn't hurt that his dad is one of the greatest players to ever play here.
What's that?
Thomas, when he came here, did you ever envision he'd be this good of a three-point shooter?
Yeah. So I recruited Thomas for a year and a half at Stephen F. And there were questions about whether he could play at this level. I was always convinced that shooting translates. It's one of the things I believe. There are a few things that I do believe, that no matter what level, if you can do it consistently, you can play anywhere. Shooting is certainly one of them. Athletically, whether he would be able to get shots off, right, was the question. And he's obviously worked at it enough that he's figured out a way to have success here. His teammates have helped him, no doubt, but a lot of it starts with just individual work ethic. I remember recruiting him when I was at Stephen F. and I showed up at his gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he was already sweating. I don't know what time he got there. 6 o'clock's about my cutoff. So I knew then that he'd have a chance to be successful. And I wondered at the time I was recruiting him at Stephen F. if I was wasting my time, because if anyone else at any level decided they wanted to go on him and he wanted to play at the highest level, he'd go. But you take chances in recruitment, and he was one of those we took a chance on. But he was nice enough. He called me, I believe it was a Sunday right after he visited here, told me he was coming here, and I told him he'd do well. So I'm not surprised at all.
Thomas told me, he's a big guy with philosophy. He has a philosophy minor. Cam told me he's always reading a book. What have you seen that from him on and off the court?
He just talks a lot, really. I don't know if I see anything philosophical in him. I think he's always trying to figure out what the practice plan means, or kind of like we got this belt thing he hasn't won yet. He's trying to figure out why he can't win it. I'm like, well, you only do one thing, right? The the sheet gives us 12 things you have to be good at to win, and shooting really isn't one of them. So it's gonna be hard for him to win the belt. He hasn't figured that out, so I don't know if there's anything. He got to rebound and take charges and stuff that he's not good at. So at the end of the day, he's probably gonna get through the season without having that belt. I maybe give him a replica when it's over, just so he can hang on his room somewhere. But yeah, I mean, he's a thinker. He's somebody who cares about trying to do things as well as he can, no matter what the circumstance. Philosophically, that'll probably be something that shows up later in his life.
Going with a guy like JK, he had an unconventional road to his team. Coming as a walk-on after open practice, what has he brought to his team in his 1.5 seasons? Not much different than the other guys. Just less time, right? Commitment, sacrifice, hard work, great attitude. He's a pretty good ball player. I remember him obviously standing out in that welcome tryout. I was under that basket right there, and I stood next to him and asked him what his name was, and he said JK, and I said, well, what's your real name? And he told me, and then I kept it in the back of my mind that if we were going to bring somebody, he'd be one of those guys. But you know, he's been through, like you said, a different journey, and I know that playing in this program has meant a lot to him, and we're glad that he's been able to be a part of it.
I know I asked you about his three-pointer after Bedlam, and you talked about Trey, but with JK, I mean, he's a local kid and gets to live that dream of making a three-point in Bedlam. How cool is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what this stuff is about, right? Giving kids opportunities, the experience, the chance to learn. We get so fixated on the guys who are going to go play in the NBA, and we forget that there are many more JK Hadlocks out there than there are Marcus Smarts, so to speak. And we need to understand that that's what the college experience is supposed to be about, helping those guys realize their dreams and putting them in position to have success moving forward. And so I'm excited for them. I hate that we haven't been able to spend more time together, but I'm certainly glad that we've had the time that we've had.
Cam told us that he calls JK CrossFit, and he says, if you think I'm a good athlete, you should look at JK. What is it about his athleticism that most fans haven't seen because he hasn't been with the team for a long time?
Well, he's been dealing with a little bit of an injury as well this year, but yeah, I mean, I think he's going to go into training, like strength conditioning, something of that sort. And yeah, he's going to look like somebody you should listen to. Man, we have shirts and skins sometimes, and I'm like, JK, go skins. I don't want to be embarrassed out here because I don't look like that. But yeah, he's got a great body. He's worked at it. When at the end of last season came and I had to go through the process of figuring out of those group of guys who could stay, him and D were obviously two that I wanted to talk to, and there was no question in his mind he wanted to be here if we wanted him back. And obviously they hadn't planned on being here over the summer and all that stuff, so it took quite a commitment. I mean, he was, no doubt he wanted to be here and work, and he changed his body and has been able to help us. So yeah, he's a tremendous athlete who's worked really hard to maximize whatever opportunities he's had here.